Okay, I'm back again, and I have a lot of ground to cover with some of the various topics that I want to talk about on my vlog. Um, and I wanted to get started this morning having a nap, so a little Da Vinci nap, as they say, or I read it somewhere, whatever. I kind of like to sleep in spurts because I'm a night person, and uh, and I'm proud of it. Well, I like to measure how much sleep I get in a 24-hour period to make sure I get 8 hours, and having, a consecutive 8 hours of sleep is best. But I worked nights for a long time, so I'm not really, understanding any reason why a person couldn't just work nights and that would be all right. But what I wanted to talk about today, well, for this particular well, I'll just call it a session actually. This session of my vlog, excuse me, is that I've been noticing a trend in the Windows Store, which is now called the Microsoft Store, and I think there was a reason they had to change the name. Um, but I've noticed that every piece of software and hardware that I have purchased has, hold on a second, okay, has sort of started a chain, what I'll call a chain reaction. And there would be, me getting the hardware that I have, and when I say hardware, I mean computer stuff, and that would be my chain, and then the software as well would be my chain, which I don't like to break or add any extra links to, because it's just a continuous chain. I don't want to break that chain. Um, so, oh, sorry about that. Let's see what time. Oh, wrong hand. I look at my swatch. Which is like a few hours off, I think. I haven't said it in a while. But anyway, what I noticed is, first of all, was the hardware. That whenever I would purchase a certain type of um, computer product, that there would be a subsequent purchasing of that exact type of product by other individuals. And even, yeah, well, I'll just leave it at that. And then with the software, I first, when the Windows Store first came out, because I was a very early adopter of the uh, Microsoft Windows 10, and that's only because I had a catastrophic loss of data and extremely expensive software. I think it's a large amount. Anyway, um, so what I've noticed in this what I've noticed with this trend is that when I go back through the apps that I use on Google, because I've been using Google since Gmail was in beta, and or even alpha. I mean, before it even worked, I was using Gmail. And what I've noticed is in this Google Play Store right here, uh, as time has moved forward, uh, each and every one of these applications that I've used over the years has ended up in a kind of a sloppy way on a certain version of uh, the Windows Microsoft. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it was called the Microsoft Store. Anyway, that's not really my point. My point is that each and every one of these well, they call them apps. I prefer the word application, but each of these has ended up in some form on plain old note taker on the Windows Store. and a shittier version, I would have to say. But oop, look at that. It is an alarm clock. Well, I'll just take that popped up alarm clock as a timing, sort of a time. I don't want to, talk with the verbal diarrhea, which just annoys the hell out of me. But these now, even the Kaspersky, even this the Kaspersky antivirus, the all of this has ended up in a sort of a shittier version on the Windows Store, and that had spread out. Okay, that has spread out to the point where basically every software I've ever used is now on the Windows Store, and some of it is actually well. They didn't put Hebrew on there. Now I'll give them that. They did not put Hebrew on there. Let's see. They didn't put any Hebrew on there for sure. But everything else is there, and poorly made, sloppy, and also this ant thing here. That's ANT. Lots of I guess what you'd call their flipboard is now embedded sort of in there. And one of the puzzling things to me is why certain things that I actually had logins to, like this Evernote, certain things are automatically installed in the software now. If you were like me and you have to reformat your computer continuously due to the way other people are using their devices. So if you go through this history of apps that I've had over the years, you'll find a sort of a corresponding crappier version on the Windows Store. I almost won't use I really do want to use they changed the name, and I'm really glad they did, because the whole store had to be revamped. And it's still a work. It's called the Microsoft Store now. Okay, that's cool. So it was the Windows Store, and now it's the Microsoft Store. And the LinkedIn you've got, and then just basically everything, things that aren't even compatible really with Windows, or things that aren't even compatible with Windows are on the Windows Store. And then there's some truly disturbing games and apps on the Windows Store. I mean, truly disturbing, and I'll get into that later. But that was just something I wanted to make a note of and sort of put that out there and have that out there, and then hopefully get this posted before it is possibly deleted. So I'm gonna wrap that up, because I'm just like a real stickler for trying to do things with a sort of a long-term goal in mind, and not just to fuck things up. Because I don't, one thing I don't like, I don't care if someone fucks up on accident, but if they continue to fuck up over and over and over and over and over again, as almost I call it the lifestyle, is just to break everything they touch, and then cause it to shatter out, into everything, until it's almost like, what is this? Is this Silicon Greenwood Valley? No, it is not. I can assure you of that. It is not. But it is kind of a hive for a sort of an idea machine here in this bedroom, right here, my little home office. And a lot of a lot of different bad ideas are generated from some good ideas. And so now that I'm getting enough quiet, to start my own projects again, um, I'm going to be vlogging and try to work through some of the mysteries that are going on in the United States, which seems to be a little bit out of step with the international community. And then next, I'm going to talk about this little thing right here, which has the company that produced this has a different model now, but what you might see it as would be a USB. See, I'm not going to show the name because they actually changed how they make it. All it is a wall socket that you plug in, and then you can insert a USB to charge. Oh, sorry, to charge, any type of a device. But this is a very interesting little piece of equipment right here. And the surprising thing to me is that it was really kind of out there in the tech community that people were discussing this like 6 years ago. So, I think people, want to learn. I think they want, quote unquote want to learn, especially when I'm going to just hazard a guess that this is basically, and this is about 6, 7 years old. This is, I think this might just be a little teeny tiny little shortwave radio, low latency. I'm seeing the parts in here, and it looks like you got, I think, equivalent of 9 volts of electricity. And looking at the parts, I would say that even if you pull it out of the socket, it would have a battery charge to it that you might not be aware of. And like I said, it's several years old, and I was alerted by a guy who works for OnStar. I think that's what it's called. It's one of those satellite car things. I don't use that type of thing because for some reason in the United States, people don't seem to be able to handle electronics without sort of swerving into the sort of, surveillance mode and then blaming it on the government. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. It's your friends and family that are basically doing this, and then the government can collect the data, but you're the freaking mule that puts it out there. In the church, some churches, not all churches. But anyway, I just thought I would start out with that. That web store seems to just lead, a trail of, why is Kaspersky on Windows Store? And, I just can't get over the fact that if you see that is an English version calendar with Putin on it. So, like I've said many times, if you have a valid complaint, like let's say Ukraine, if you have a valid complaint against Russia, that's one thing. But to just say the word collusion over and over and over again, it doesn't mean anything. It's just repeating a word, and it's raising emotions, but it's not really explaining anything in a way that a problem could be identified and then dealt with. So anyway, that's about it. And I'm going to try to get myself a little nap here. And I've been working all night and doing a little bit of art projects. And I'm artistically, I'm experimenting with some different mediums. Like for some reason, due to filters on cameras, I'm really interested in aluminum foil and believe it or not, what they call saran wrap or plastic wrap or shrink wrap, to try to make some physical filters. Get back sort of to that or tactile, that to just use the junk that I have, which isn't. I think I actually heard an amazing estimation of how long and how much computer equipment I have and how long that could last. And it's an astronomical, it's unbelievable how many years worth of just parts in my own room that could keep me occupied, and that someday I will actually make money um, with this chain that was broken and even biologically broken, and then my chain, which has stayed intact, and I'll talk more about that later. Um, but anyway, so the next item I think I'm going to be talking about is this little thing right here. So I'm going to just put this out there because at the very least it's a keylogger. All right. But I'm suspecting just by what I'm seeing here that it's a little bit more than just a keylogger, and it's magic for now for some people. But they're just like electronics tend to have a certain shape, and the components do. And I'm seeing like this is a whole lot of just a charge USB. So anyway, that's that. And yeah, um, as far as the senses go, there's the smell of burning plastic today. Some of us around in the tech community will have smell certain unusual odors and might describe them differently. A lot of people talk about first smelling popcorn, believe it or not. That would be one of the more pleasant smells. And then anything from what I call like the burning ozone is burning electrical wires or something. It's just sort of weird, And then you'll ask, it's only like, I guess, smart people that smell it. But I assure you, and I don't think it's like in my nose or whatever, but there's just the environment is fucked. It is just fucked. And we don't have, forever to fix it. So, uh, and this doesn't help. And the other night I sort of figured out how this device could actually, hold on, I listen a lot, and most of the time it's involuntary, but everything's gotten really quiet, which at most times be a luxury, but right now it's disturbing. Anyway, yeah, so I don't want to ramble on too long. So, if you put a bunch of devices in one town or a city, along with a lot of spinning things that spin, like lawnmowers and fidget spinners, or what before the fidget spinner came out, what I called the tiny shiny, and some people called the gyroscope. So if you've got enough things spinning at once, and enough of these devices that have, you know, there's a funny commercial now about, is your tech too complicated? Why don't you take my home build it yourself microwave kit? Uh, and with enough of these things that aren't being recycled properly or that are being taken apart and used, there's a lot of radiation in the air, in the atmosphere. A lot of radiation. There's a lot of, I guess, if you're on a lot of drugs or something, and you're not even aware of it, and I'll get into that later too, then you might not feel these things. But those of us who have stayed with a sort of, your prescription regime, and, monitor how you feel, your health, and go to the doctor and everything, um, and make sure that you don't have any substances in your, bloodstream that might cause you to feel better than maybe you would if you were really feeling what the environment was like. So, and that's going to be it for it. Out.